Did my son-in-law want me or my inheritance? He thought I was penniless until I bought his house. Summit Cafe and Bar had that polished, pretending to be casual charm exposed brick, hanging Edison bulbs, mimosas poured like status symbols. I arrived early, habit from years of fire alarms and clockwork schedules. Ava and Damon were already there. He looked up, grinning like a man reviewing his own reflection. Public service is sweet, he said, swirling his drink. But it's not strategy. The real game's leverage. He tapped the Cartier bracelet on Ava's wrist. We plan ahead. I buttered toast I didn't want. In my day, strategy meant the building didn't burn. He smirked. And now, it's about assets that don't. Ava gave a weak laugh, folding her napkin in half, avoiding my eyes. Dad, she said softly, don't take it personally. Damon's just practical. I set the knife down. Practical, I said. That what we call stepping over the people who held the line for you? Nobody answered. Just silence and the sound of a crack forming. I guess 99% of you will hear this, sigh and scroll past, not clicking like or subscribe, even if it only takes a second. What time is it for you, and where are you listening? Summit Cafe and Bar was the kind of place that tried a little too hard to look, effortless exposed brick, Edison bulbs, succulents arranged like they came with a manual. The smell of lemon polish mixed with overpriced coffee. I got there early, old habit. Fire captains hate being late, even in peacetime. Ava and Damon were already at the table. He had that unearned ease of a man who believed the world existed to confirm his reflection. Public service is sweet, he said, swirling his mimosa. But it's not strategy. The real game is leverage. He tapped the Cartier bracelet on Ava's wrist like a gavel. We plan ahead. I buttered toast I didn't want. Back in my day, strategy meant the building didn't burn. Damon smiled, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. And now? Now it's about assets that don't. He laughed softly, expecting the table to join him. Ava didn't. She just looked down at her napkin, folding and unfolding the edge. Feigned warmth, pinprick offense, then that cold filing cabinet feeling in the chest. It's not rage, it's the knowledge that someone just tested the perimeter. A waiter filled my water. The sound of the pitcher covered the silence long enough for me to see what Damon wanted. Witnesses. Power always needs an audience. I looked around. Other diners smiled politely, pretending they hadn't heard. I caught one man's reflection in the mirror, his eyes met mine, and slid away. Ava finally spoke. Dad, Damon was just talking about the economy. I smiled. Sure, it's a hot topic. I reached for the check, sliding my Bank of America card across before the waiter could blink. Damon didn't notice. He was busy explaining to Ava how market cycles reward adaptability. He wasn't wrong. He just didn't understand the kind of markets I knew, the ones where seconds decide lives. Outside, sunlight glanced off parked cars, too bright. I took a breath, slow and measured, like I used to after stepping out of a smoke-filled building. Cracks start small. You never see the collapse right away. It's just a sound, faint, like plaster shifting behind the wall. I told myself it was only brunch. Just one comment. Just one missed defense from my daughter. But once you've seen a hairline crack, you can't unsee it. You wait, you watch, you note who laughs and who doesn't. I walked to my Lexus, checking the time on my Citizen watch. Still working, still ticking. Some things keep going long after people stop believing in their value. And that was the first day I realized Damon thought honor was a museum piece, and that my silence looked like permission. 2 weeks later, Damon listed their house in Short Hills. Open house balloons bobbed on the mailbox. A chalkboard easel read, "Modern colonial designer finishes," the kind of phrase that makes honesty sound like an inconvenience. I showed up anyway, coffee in hand, a smile polite enough to disarm. "Hey, Walt," Damon said, voice carrying. "Didn't know you were coming." "Just curious," I said. "Beautiful street." He leaned toward the realtor, stage whispering, but not softly enough. "Don't mind him. He's retired. Penniless." I heard the hyphen, carefully placed. The realtor chuckled before she could stop herself. Damon grinned wider. I didn't react. I opened a drawer in the kitchen, soft close hinges. Ruth would have loved that detail. I walked the house like an inspector. Baseboards, windows, airflow, Firefighters learn to read how a building breathes. The air smelled like Swiss coffee, that fake white paint everyone uses to look expensive. A Ring camera blinked from the doorframe, a little red light winking like it knew me. Damon followed, talking loudly to a couple near the island. We've had great offers already, but you know how it is, people love to look even if they can't afford to buy. The couple nodded awkwardly. I took my time in the basement, listening to the quiet. Every space tells the truth when you stop trying to sell it. Upstairs, Ava was giving the tour like a TV host. Light exposure is amazing, she said. She didn't meet my eyes. When I finished my circuit, I poured myself a glass of the citrus water sweating on the counter. The slice of lemon stuck to my thumb like punctuation. I wiped it away, set the glass down gently, and smiled at the realtor. Nice house, I said. Then I added, You'll be hearing from me. Outside, Damon was shaking hands with a neighbor, his voice carrying again. He's harmless, likes to play pretend. I opened my car door, still calm. Firefighters learn early. You don't charge a flame. You study how it moves. I drove home, parked in my driveway, and thought about Ruth's favorite saying, If you can't douse the fire, starve it. That night, I made a decision. At dawn, the house was quiet except for the faint hum of the fridge. I poured Starbucks Pike into a chipped U.S. Fire Service mug and opened the Wall Street Journal to the markets section. This was logistics, not anger. Rick, it's Walt, I said into the phone. Need a proof of funds letter. Discreet. He chuckled. You still running that Lexington Trust? Same as ever, keep my name off the first pass. By noon, the letter was ready. I printed it, folded it, and slid my Mont Blanc pen across the counter. Ruth would have smiled at the neatness of it. Do it once, do it right, she always said. I called Morales, my real estate attorney, the same one who'd coached my son's Little League team. Standard inspection rider, no fireworks, I told her. Got it, she said. You paying cash again? Always. I texted an old friend. Mike runs a veteran-owned contracting firm. Heads up, I wrote. Might need an inspection team soon. He replied with a thumbs-up emoji. That's how men like us talk. Few words, full understanding. I looked around my kitchen. The quartz countertop had a faint seam at the edge, barely visible, but there, like a promise. The phone buzzed again, an alert from Chase, confirming the letter's verification. Money doesn't buy peace, but it buys silence long enough to act. At 2 p.m., I drove back down that maple-lined street in Short Hills. Same realtor, same smile, but this time she looked at me differently. Professional, alert, respect with a lid on it. The difference between leverage and luck is structure. I rehearsed the only sentence I needed. I'll take it. By evening, the paperwork was in motion. I didn't celebrate. I just refilled my mug and turned off the light. The second open house was warmer, louder kids running upstairs, realtors handing out cookies. I walked in like a ghost returning to his own story. Damon spotted me, smirked. My father-in-law, sweet guy, keeps showing up. Doesn't have the resources to compete. I didn't respond. I waited until he was mid-sentence, then stepped to the table where the realtor's clipboard Saturday. I'll take it, I said. Full cash offer. Standard inspection. Closing in 21 days. The room paused like a held breath. Marla, the realtor, blinked. We have multiple offers. Then you'll appreciate clean paper, I said, sliding the envelope forward. Her eyes flicked to the Chase letterhead. Damon's laugh came out wrong. You're joking. No, I said evenly. And my first act as owner is to ask this man to leave the premises. For a second, nobody moved. A baby cried upstairs. A BMW idled outside. Damon's face went red, then pale. He looked around for an ally. None appeared. I turned toward the window. The third stair creaked again, the same one that had squeaked on my first walk-through. Even wood remembers disrespect. Ava appeared at the top of the stairs, confusion blooming into shock. Dad? Inspection next week, I said. You'll get notice. Damon sputtered. This is insane, but the realtor's professionalism returned like armor. Mr. Hayes, congratulations. We'll draft the acceptance immediately. Outside, I saw Damon on the lawn, phone pressed to his ear, pacing. His mouth moved fast, his hand cutting through the air like he could slice the outcome apart. I didn't stay to watch. I signed the offer and walked out, feeling the air change the neighborhood, the day, maybe even me. Some people win arguments by raising their voice, others by owning the ground under their feet. The Summit Ridge Country Club smelled like lemon polish and old money, two things that shine best under chandeliers. The ballroom glowed in amber light, linen-covered tables spaced with military precision. A string trio played at last, polite and soulless. It wasn't romance, it was reputation. Their 5th anniversary. 5 years since the champagne wedding that had felt like a corporate merger more than a vow. I told myself I was attending to honor the milestone, not to test any wounds. I even brought a gift, Ruth's old recipe card for chocolate torte, framed in walnut. Ava loved that dessert when she was little. I'd written love, Mom's recipe, Dad's hands on the back. I found my seat near the back, the place they put the polite history close enough to be visible, far enough to edit out later. The hum of conversation filled the room, talk of markets, vacations, foundation grants. Damon glided through it like a man already composed for a magazine spread. He raised his glass early. To 5 years of building something that appreciates, he said. Not just love, but assets. Because the right kind of partnership compounds. Laughter rippled, thin but approving. Ava smiled like she'd practiced it. The Cartier bracelet from brunch caught the light again, glittering with irony. The MC called for a few words from the couple. Applause followed, automatic. Ava hesitated half a breath, maybe less, then took the mic. "Thank you all for being here," she began. Her voice was clear, rehearsed. 5 years isn't just a milestone. It's a transformation. Our family's changing, and we're so grateful for everyone who's supported modern choices. My stomach tightened. Modern choices. She looked around, steady, smile practiced to the millimeter. Some legacies are love, she said. Others are stories we outgrow. Her eyes found me, unflinching. We can't be held hostage by sentiment. The air left the room. For half a second no one moved. Then someone near the head table laughed too loud, too relieved. The rest followed, polite clapping at first, then real. That's when it hit, the same sound you hear after a fire alarm stops. The emptiness of silence being replaced by noise. I didn't stand, didn't flinch. Command presence means you hold the line even when it's not a fire you can fight. Damon was watching me. He wasn't smiling this time, he was cataloging, making sure the narrative stuck. The outgrown father, the relic, the sentimental liability. The trio kept playing. The notes blurred into a hum I couldn't separate from memory. Ava at 6 years old, sitting on the fire truck, helmet swallowing her face. "You look like a robot who saves people," she'd said. Ruth laughed from behind her camera. That flash still echoes when I close my eyes. Now Ava stood in a silk gown under chandeliers, thanking a room full of people for supporting her independence from me. And the worst part? I almost believed she needed to. When the applause swelled, I picked up my glass, clinked it once against the edge of my water, and joined in. Slow, deliberate, applauding her composure, not her words. I caught Damon's reflection in the mirrored wall behind the dais. He was already talking to a man from the club board, animated, secure. His hand on Ava's back looked rehearsed. Ownership disguised as affection. When dinner resumed, I rose quietly. The staff assumed I was heading for the restroom. I wasn't. I walked to their table, placed the framed recipe card beneath the centerpiece of white peonies, and left without interrupting. Outside, the night smelled faintly of rain and cigar smoke. My car waited in the dim lot, quiet, loyal. Inside the ballroom, I could still hear the laughter rising, fading, blending with the music. I sat for a moment before starting the engine. My reflection in the windshield looked older but steady. I applauded like everyone else, and realized there are fires you put out by letting them burn to their own edge. The Midtown Newark office had that expensive quiet, the kind where the walls hum just enough to remind you someone's paying the HVAC bill. 9th floor. Glass panels, brushed steel handles, a view of the traffic crawling like arteries below. Morales greeted me with a firm handshake and a look that said, "You've already made up your mind." "Morning, Walt," he said, motioning toward the conference room. "Inspection rider, standard language, no fireworks, right?" "Exactly," I said. "And send a courtesy notice to Damon's realtor. From now on, all communications go through you." He smiled faintly. "You want clean paperwork." "Always." "Oh." He slid the folder toward me. Chase letter, trust acknowledgement, purchase terms. I uncapped my Mont Blanc black resin, weight just right, and signed where the yellow flags told me to. Every stroke was steady, practiced. Years of fire reports and equipment requisitions will do that. Morales tapped the page. You're closing fast. Sometimes the best revenge is meeting a deadline. He laughed softly. You know, most clients who want to make a point end up making a mess. I don't make messes, I said. I make systems. When we were done, I stood and looked out at the skyline, gray glass and faint blue haze. Newark wasn't pretty, but it was honest. Sirens drifted up from the street like memory. Send me the countersigned copy, I said. I'll review before end of day. Will do, Morales replied. And Walt? Yeah? Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. I froze for a beat. Ruth's line. He couldn't have known. The tremor hit my right hand as I capped the pen. I rubbed the tendon the way she used to and whispered, I know. Then I wrote it down on a post. It stuck it to the edge of my MacBook Air before I forgot. Next stop. Calls. First to Carl, the veteran contractor who'd done half the community work Damon bragged about. Carl, suspend the preferential pricing on Damon's project. Courtesy windows closed. He didn't hesitate. Copy. Effective today. We didn't say more. That's the kind of loyalty you can't buy. Next, an email to the vendor who'd landed a sweetheart deal through my old firehouse connections. Subject line. Adjustment to terms, body. Reverting to standard commercial rate effective immediately. Appreciate your past cooperation. I added one line that felt good to type. Integrity's a renewable resource. Discounts aren't. Before lunch, I drafted a new letter for the Community Grant Committee. The previous sponsorship, Damon's consulting startup, was rerouted to the Firefighters' Widows Fund. It felt right. Ruth had co-chaired that fundraiser for years. Her photo still hung in their hall. When I hit send, I sat back and let the silence breathe. No triumph, just order returning to its rightful shape. My phone buzzed with a Facebook notification. Ava's post. A photo of the country club cake, caption new chapter. The comments from the neighborhood group rolled in underneath. Beautiful photo, Ava. Lovely event. And one from an old firehouse wife. Your dad must be proud. He always keeps his word. That one stayed up longer than the others. By 3, Morales had texted confirmation. Offer accepted. Closing date locked. I walked the half-mile to the parking garage instead of calling for the car. Needed air. The afternoon smelled like rain mixed with diesel. On the corner, a Bank of America branch gleamed under its marble facade. Polished, cool, anonymous. Inside those walls sat the trust that Ruth and I built one invoice at a time. I stopped at the revolving door, watched the tellers through the glass, and thought about what leverage really was. Not control, not intimidation. Just access, and the discipline to close it when necessary. Damon was about to find out what a life without unearned favors felt like. By the time the elevator doors closed behind me, the only noise left in my day was the soft click of locks returning to neutral. The rain had passed overnight, leaving the air clean and the concrete cool enough to smell like stone. Perfect morning for an inspection. I arrived 10 minutes early, old habit, and stood in the driveway watching condensation slide down the new gutters. The house looked smaller, now that it was mine in principle. Ownership does that. It turns grandeur into measurement. The inspector, a solid guy named Hal, shook my hand and got to work without small talk. We'll start outside, he said, already pulling his flashlight. Damon was there too, of course, dressed like a man who wanted to look casual, crisp polo, no socks and loafers. He hovered near the neighbors' hydrangeas, chatting about market trends, laughter louder than it needed to be. Pristine condition, he told her. We've had 0 issues. I smiled slightly and joined Hal at the downspout. Grade's good, Hal said. Water runs clear of the foundation. Note it, I said. Inside, the air carried a faint mix of lemon cleaner and staged candles. Upstairs, I could hear the listing agent laughing too loudly, like she was auditioning for cheer. In the kitchen, Hal crouched by the sink. GFCI outlets missing here, he said. Easy fix, $50 in parts maybe. Note it, I said again. We'll handle after close. He glanced at me, curious. You're not looking to nickel and dime the seller? No, this isn't that kind of purchase. He nodded once and moved on. We reached the living room. I walked to the window, lifted the sash. It stuck halfway, then gave with a sigh. Every house breathes, I said, mostly to myself. Out on the lawn, Damon's voice carried through the open frame. House is flawless. We spared no expense. Hal raised an eyebrow. You related to the seller? I smiled. In a manner of speaking, we went down to the basement next. The air changed, denser, cooler. A single bulb hung from the center beam. A spider web stretched across it, unbroken. The kind of thing that tells you no one's been paying attention. Hal ran his hand along the back wall, then crouched. Hairline crack. Cosmetic for now, but worth sealing. He marked it with blue painter's tape. I crouched beside him, ran a finger over the line. Concrete always tells the truth, I said. He looked at me. So does water. If it ever leaks, you'll see it first here. I nodded. Good. I like to know where things start. When we came back up, the laughter had stopped. The agent was on her phone. Damon stood by the window, pretending not to watch me. The neighbor had drifted away, conversation unfinished. Hal handed me the summary sheet. That's it. Solid house. Just age doing what it does. I looked it over. GFCI outlet. Hairline crack. Sticking sash. No surprises. Perfect, I said. I'll accept as is. Hal blinked. You're not asking for credits? No. I'm not here to fix his record, just the wiring. Damon took a step closer, voice tight. You're sure you don't want to renegotiate, Walt? Could save yourself some trouble. I met his eyes. No trouble at all. He searched my face for gloating and found none. That seemed to bother him more than anger would have. Hal packed up his tools, gave me a firm nod. You don't see that much anymore, people owning what they buy. Used to be normal, I said. Now it's rare. We stood a moment in the doorway, looking out at the maple trees dripping in sunlight. The neighbor waved awkwardly, unsure which side of the fence to face. As Hal drove off, I stayed behind a minute longer, phone in hand. My background lit up Ruth at Lake Tahoe, wind in her hair, laughing into the lens. For a second, I heard an ambulance siren that wasn't there. Reflex memory, muscle deep. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, turned the deadbolt once, and breathed in the faint smell of concrete. We signed the final addendum without changing a number, and that's when Damon finally realized I hadn't come to play his game at all. I guess 99% of you will hear this. Sigh and scroll past, not clicking like or subscribe. Even if it only takes a second. What time is it for you? And where are you listening? The Newark Performing Arts Center glittered like a jewelry box that had been opened too many times. Chandelier glass hung in long icicles above the lobby, refracting the light into polite applause. Photographers lined the step and repeat backdrop, smiling like they'd been told to pretend they cared. Tonight's gala was for first responders scholarships, Ruth's kind of event. Damon's firm was listed as a sponsor. He'd told anyone who'd listened that giving back builds brand equity. Cocktail hour blurred into a parade of handshakes. Damon worked the room like a realtor at an open house. Strategic partnerships, pipeline alignment, philanthropic visibility. I stayed near the coffee urns, sipping club soda, watching the crowd calibrate to him. Ava was radiant, rehearsed. Every detail, the bracelet, the dress, the soft laugh, was engineered to glow under filtered lenses. The host took the mic. Let's thank our sponsors, she said. Damon's firm logo flashed briefly on the projection screen, second tier, lower right corner. His smile froze halfway between confident and surprised. Applause came and went. Then the host adjusted her note cards. We also have a surprise announcement tonight, she said, turning toward me. Captain Walter Hayes has something special to share. A few heads swiveled. Damon's didn't. I walked to the podium. The omega on my wrist caught a line of light, steady as pulse. Good evening, I said. My wife, Ruth, believed every act of service deserved a legacy that outlasts a plaque. Silence. The kind that tightens attention. I'm proud to announce the Ruth Hayes Scholarship, 5 students a year, children of first responders. Paperwork's done. Funds are parked with the credit union. The screen behind me lit up. Letterhead, signatures, account confirmation names redacted, numbers real. Applause rolled in, slow but building, like a tide remembering where shore was. Damon leaned toward Ava, voice low but carrying. He's showboating. Ava blinked, then smiled toward the stage, taking the mic when the host offered it. It's sweet, she said. My dad's always been about stories. The crowd chuckled, polite. I nodded, leaned closer to the mic. Stories that return home, I said. Receipts attached. The laughter died first. Then came the real applause, the kind that lifts from chest, not hands. The board chair, a retired battalion chief, rose halfway from his seat and nodded toward me, slow and deliberate. Damon's face didn't move, but the color shifted behind it. Ava kept smiling, realizing too late that the room wasn't fluent in her dialect of irony. When the applause finally eased, the host added, "The credit union's board has already approved matching contributions. Extraordinary, Captain Hayes. Extraordinary." The word hit the room like the quiet after a siren. I stepped back, letting the spotlight move on. At the edge of the stage, I folded my coat check ticket number 343, too symbolic to mention aloud, so I tucked it in my pocket. At the table, Damon swirled his wine without drinking. Ava scrolled through her phone, pretending to capture the moment for social media, but the angle stayed fixed on the screen, not the stage. I sat down beside them, calm. "The HVAC sale proceeds finally found their place," I said quietly. Damon's jaw twitched. "Congratulations," he said. "A sentimental move." "Maybe," I said. "But some legacies appreciate faster than assets." Ava tried to recover, touching my hand briefly. "It was a lovely gesture, Dad." "It wasn't a gesture," I said. "It was structure." The lights dimmed again for the final award, but I barely heard the speeches. Ruth's voice floated somewhere between the applause and the hush, the difference between noise and signal. When the lights came up, people drifted toward the coffee line. A firefighter's widow hugged me. The credit union rep handed me her card with both hands. Across the room, Damon wasn't looking at me. He was staring at his phone, scrolling, pausing, scrolling again. His expression changed once, then twice. By the time he slipped the phone into his jacket, the temperature around our table had dropped 10 degrees. When the lights came up and people queued for coffee, Damon wasn't looking at me. He was watching his phone as 3 clients canceled in a row. Morning light cut through the quartz countertop like a blade, catching on the bowl of lemons Ava had arranged for the realtor photos. They looked too perfect, too deliberate. One had a bruise turned to face the wall. I sat at the end of the island with my coffee black, no sugar, listening to Damon's phone light up like a dispatch board. "Hold on, what do you mean?" Project paused. His voice was steady at first, the salesman tone still on autopilot. On speaker, the contractor I'd introduced to him years ago cleared his throat. "We're re-evaluating partnerships. Nothing personal." "Nothing personal?" Damon repeated, half laughing. "I brought you 3 deals." "Walt brought me 10, the contractor said. Then the line went dead. Click. Damon stared at the phone a second longer than necessary. The silence after a door closes always tells you more than the door itself. He called another contact. Same result. "We're reviewing budgets. Taking a breather. Following up after Q3. All polite, all final." He looked up, eyes searching for a fight that wasn't coming. "You been making calls, Walt?" I took a sip. "I've been making coffee." Through the window, my Lexus sat at the curb steady, idling in the reflection of the morning sun, calm as a parked fire engine after the smoke's gone. Ava came in wearing Damon's college sweatshirt, phone in hand. "Morning," she said too brightly. Her thumb was already moving. The blue light of the screen flickered across her face. "What's that?" Damon asked, trying to sound casual. "Just posting something," she said. I glanced over as she typed the caption aloud. "Families should prioritize progress over sentimentality." A few taps, a sigh of satisfaction. I didn't comment, didn't correct. Just let the sentence hang there between the sound of the coffee maker cycling off and the refrigerator hum settling into quiet. Ruth's voice drifted through memory like smoke under a door. "Leave the fire room door closed. Starve it of oxygen." I opened my MacBook Air and clicked through the checklist labeled "Return items to neutral." Community grant transferred to Firefighters Widows Fund. Vendor introductions revoked. Union referral directory updated. Name removed. Damon Hayes Consulting. Final purchase closed pending Morales confirmation. Each checkmark made the morning quieter. Not victory, just balance. My email pinged. Morales' subject line, Closing confirmation and rent. Back clause draft. We spoke briefly. Standard 30 days, he said. Market rate. No sublets, no parties, no alterations. That's what you wanted? Exactly, I said. Boundaries clean and visible. He chuckled. You always write policy like a Captain Short sentences, no adjectives. That's how things stay upright, I said. After the call, I signed the addendum electronically and printed a hard copy for my folder. Paper still feels like control. Across the counter, Damon scrolled through his messages, jaw tight. They'll call back, he muttered. They have to. Ava looked up from her phone. Unreadable. The glow of the screen reflected in her eyes, but the likes weren't coming fast enough. From the corner of the screen, I saw the neighborhood group already stirring. Curious timing. Great scholarship announcement last night, Captain Hayes. Integrity runs in the family, or used to. Ava's face tightened. Damon noticed it too. Ignore them, he said. They don't matter. But he said it like a man who finally realized they did. I closed the laptop, folded the rent-back draft once, and slid it across the counter. You'll need to initial the bottom, I said. He hesitated, scanning the terms. 30 days? Plenty of time, I said. No rush, just order. He signed, the pen scratching louder than it needed to. I left my Mont Blanc on the counter beside the document. Black ink, small weight, nothing dramatic. The lemons caught the morning light again, yellow against the white quartz. The bruise still faced the wall. We signed the rent back at arm's length, and I left the pen on the counter like a boundary you could trip over if you weren't looking. Closing day smelled like toner and old coffee. The title company's conference room had a pot that hadn't been cleaned since the last recession and a box of blue pens with half their caps missing. 9th floor. Downtown sirens weaving faintly through the glass. I arrived early, as always. Damon and Ava came 10 minutes late, carrying the kind of silence you can only get from a car ride that started with an argument. The closer, a woman with an efficient smile and a stack of folders, motioned us to sit. We'll go page by page, she said. Deed recording first, then wire confirmation, then keys. Fine, Damon said, pulling at his cufflinks. The Chase cashier's check sat in front of me, clean paper, exact numbers. Morales had double-checked every comma. The closer verified the wire, nodded. Funds received. She clicked through her checklist. Deed recorded. Congratulations, Mr. Hayes. Damon gave a sharp laugh. You mean congratulations to him? The closer looked up. Technically, both of you for completing a lawful transaction. I smiled. The kind that doesn't travel to the eyes. Paragraph 7. Use and occupancy, I said evenly. We'll just restate for clarity. Ava frowned. Dad? I held up a copy. No parties above 12 people. No commercial filming. No short-term rentals. No structural changes. Standard attorney language. Damon leaned back. You can't tell me who visits my home. Read paragraph 7, I repeated. It's not your home right now. It's a property under rent. Back. Insurance liability requires limits. The closer didn't flinch. That's standard, sir. Ava softened her tone. Dad, it's our anniversary month. Friends might stop by. 12's a reasonable number, I said. You pick them. The stapler on the table snapped once, unevenly. Its cracked base left the corner of the packet unpressed, curling upward like an untidy ribbon. Nobody fixed it. I liked that detail. It reminded me paperwork isn't emotional. It just holds. We moved on to signatures. I slid my Omega cuff back and used the Mont Blanc, black ink on white paper. Ruth used to laugh about my fondness for good pens. You like things that don't melt, she'd say. Exactly. The closer gathered the signed forms, tapped them into alignment. That's all for title and transfer. She handed me a small envelope. Inside, 2 silver keys, a thin plastic fob, and a folded access sheet. Nest camera credentials are in the system. Ring doorbell, same. Buyer's privilege to reprovision. Already done, I said. My phone buzzed a soft confirmation. Nest app live under my account. Damon caught the sound. What's that? Documentation, I said. Evidence keeps arguments short. He laughed once, too sharp. You're paranoid. No, I said, slipping the envelope into my jacket pocket. I'm thorough. The closer cleared her throat. That concludes closing. Congratulations to everyone. Ava looked at me, her eyes glassy but steady. You could have trusted us. I did, I said. That's why it's on paper. She exhaled, slow. You always win the paperwork. Paper doesn't win, I said. It just remembers. Oh. Outside, we rode the elevator together. Damon stood in front, jaw tight. Ava pressed the lobby button with one manicured finger. The light turned red, then green. No one spoke until the doors opened. On the curb, my Lexus idled again, same as before. Predictable, unmoved. I drove straight to the house, parked, and let myself in. The walls breathed differently, ownership changes air pressure. I walked through each room once. Kitchen, hall, upstairs landing. The third stair squeaked in familiar rhythm. At the entry, the Nest camera blinked its small green light. Armed, watching, documenting without judgment. By the time the elevator chimed behind my eyelids in memory, the house answered to me, and paper doesn't care who smiles wider. Saturday night arrived with the kind of stillness that usually precedes a call. The city lights through my blinds looked soft, unfocused. CNN murmured low on the television some distant headline about trade negotiations, but my attention was on the iPad, glowing beside a folded stack of laundry. The Nest app blinked awake. Motion and entry, it said. Then again, and again. 13 times in 2 minutes. I tapped the feed. The screen filled with my house in pixels, clean, indifferent, honest. A man's voice drifted through the audio. Guest list says 36. Another. Where do you want the champagne tower? I leaned back, thumb resting against the coffee mug. Damon's voice entered the mix, louder, careless. Anywhere. Owner's out of town. I almost laughed. Owner's listening, I said quietly. The camera's field of view was narrow by design entry. Living room, part of the hallway. It caught sequins flashing, catering trays, a rented light rig pulsing blue across the hardwood. Not the people's faces, just the motion. That's all the law required, and all I needed. Another notification. Front door opened. Then a faint cheer. Glass clinking. Someone yelling, "To 5 years!" The firefighter in me, the one who ran toward alarms, not from them, rose half an inch in the chair. I could have gone. It would have taken 10 minutes to be there, 15 with parking. But that's the instinct Ruth used to talk me down from. Not every fire wants water, she'd say. Some just want witnesses. I exhaled and opened the screen recorder instead. 4 clips, each less than 20 seconds. Enough to show the head count, the bartender, the rented speaker, and the champagne tower glinting in a reflection. One clip caught Ava pacing near the hallway mirror. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not posing, not smiling, just folding her arms, chewing her lip. She turned once, and for a second her face filled the edge of the frame. A flash of the little girl who used to hand me my helmet and say I looked like a robot who saves people. Then she was gone again, swallowed by music. The dryer kicked on behind me, the hum slightly higher because it was set to whites. I folded towels I didn't need to fold. Habit keeps your hands from betraying what you feel. Another clip. The back door swinging open, voices laughing. One of the caterers asking, "You sure the owner's cool with this?" Damon. He doesn't care. Trust me. I looked at the clock. 10:47 p.m. I typed the first email. 2. Morales. Subject. U&O clause violation. Evidence attached. Body. Please see attached clips. Entryway. Timestamped. Party exceeds occupancy limits per paragraph 10. Proceed per standard notice. No direct contact intended. I CC'd the realtor. Note. For your records regarding property condition post-event. Attached. Sent. CNN kept talking about markets and mayors, while the Nest notifications continued their slow, steady rhythm. Motion detected. Front door closed. Front door opened, each alert like the heartbeat of someone trying too hard to prove they were alive. I muted the feed, unplugged the iPad, and folded the last towel. The apartment smelled faintly of detergent and coffee cooling past its prime. Before bed, I scrolled one last time through the Nest app. The screen had gone still. The party was over. A stray balloon bobbed in the corner of the frame, tugging against its ribbon like it wanted out. I tapped Save Clips, labeled the folder Saturday, Rent Back. The night was quiet again, the kind of quiet that only follows noise someone shouldn't have made. By Sunday morning, My inbox held the only three things that matter when people stop respecting your words: the time, the date, and the footage. The smell of scrambled eggs and hotel coffee is the same at every chamber breakfast: warm, bland, ambitious. Summit Ridge Country Club had polished the silver urns but missed one streak near the handle. I watched it catch the morning light like a small imperfection in an otherwise perfect lie. Damon stood near the back of the room, navy blazer, confident smile. His firm's logo was on the program under platinum sponsors. He was already rehearsing, chatting up a table of developers like a man who believed momentum was permanent. The chairwoman, Ellen Pryor, tapped the mic. "Good morning, everyone. Before we hear from our sponsor speaker, we have a special guest, a man who served this community for over 3 decades. Please welcome Captain Walt Hayes, retired, Newark Fire Department." A polite ripple of applause. Some nods. A few people checked their phones. Damon didn't. He froze, coffee cup half raised. I stepped up to the podium, one slide behind me. Ruth's scholarship letter on credit union letterhead, signature visible, no flair, no music. "Some legacies," I began, "are loud. They shout from rooftops, from invoices, from dinner tables. Others live on paper receipts that show up when it counts." Forks paused midair. A quiet settled in that had nothing to do with me and everything to do with recognition. "I was raised to believe integrity was a fire break," I continued. "You draw the line before the spark. You don't wait until the house burns." A man at Damon's table leaned toward his neighbor. "Oh, this is about him," he whispered, not quietly enough. I didn't look their way. "We talk about growth," I said, "but growth without standards isn't progress, it's corrosion. Ask any firefighter. A structure can look sound right up until the moment it folds." The chair nodded slightly, then took the mic. "Thank you, Captain Hayes." Applause again, this time warmer, heavier. She clicked to the next slide. "Community Event Conduct Standards, Draft." The screen glowed with bullet points in neutral fonts. "Maximum occupancy guidance for residential rentals. Noise and parking courtesy for sponsors. Insurance compliance for temporary events. Rent back etiquette." Ellen smiled. "These are evolving best practices to protect sponsors, neighborhoods, and the chamber's reputation." The murmur started small and spread. Heads turned, eyes found Damon. Damon stood abruptly, chair scraping tile. "This is a hit job," he said, completely unprofessional. Ellen didn't blink. "It's a policy, Mr. Baird. Drafted by committee, not commentary." A sponsor at Damon's table adjusted his chair an inch away. Another pretended to check his phone. Ava sat 2 seats down, hands clasped in her lap, fingers worrying the hem of the tablecloth. She didn't look up. I collected my notes, placed them neatly in the leather folder Ruth had given me the year before she died. Her voice flickered like the faint hiss of a radio. "If you do this right, you won't have to raise your voice." Ellen wrapped up quickly. "As we move forward, we're grateful for examples in our community who show that integrity still scales." She gestured vaguely toward the stage, but the applause landed unevenly, half polite, half real. Damon stayed standing a moment too long. "You people think paperwork makes you moral," he muttered. "No," I said quietly, passing him on the way back to my seat. "It just makes you accountable." The room pretended not to hear, but it did. You could feel the air change like the shift right before a siren starts. When the breakfast broke, the murmur of networking began. Chairs scraping, business cards sliding, laughter with edges. Damon extended his hand to a local developer he'd been courting. The man smiled thinly, nodded, and pocketed his own card instead of taking Damon's. Across the room, I poured myself a final cup of coffee. The streak on the urn caught the light again, the one someone hadn't bothered to polish. Perfect, I thought. Real things always leave a mark. When the breakfast broke and business cards changed hands, Damon discovered his were returning to him like boomerangs. The air that morning had the clean, metallic edge of early autumn bright sun, windshields flashing like mirrors, and a leaf blower whining somewhere beyond the hedges. Summit Ridge's parking lot was filling with weekend golfers and retirees in visors. I was there for the breakfast buffet, or at least that's what I told myself. Truthfully, I'd learned to watch the ecosystem move without me. Damon's new Porsche sat near the curb, the paint so fresh it reflected clouds that hadn't even decided whether to rain. Ava stood beside him, phone in hand, scrolling too fast, pretending not to feel the way eyes followed them. Then a man in a gray windbreaker approached mid-30s, clipboard under one arm, plain envelope in the other. He moved like someone on a schedule. "Mr. Damon Baird?" he asked. Damon looked up from unlocking the car. "Do you know who I am?" The man's tone didn't change. "Yes, sir. These are for you." He extended the envelope. Cream stock, stamped with the contractor's logo recognizable to anyone in local construction. The kind of envelope that didn't contain invitations. Damon didn't take it right away. He looked around first, gauging audience. A sponsor couple from the chamber walked past, mid-conversation, then slowed when they saw the exchange. One of them raised an eyebrow, the smallest movement, like a bookmark slipping into place. Damon snatched the papers. "This is harassment." The process server didn't blink. "This is service." He turned and left, professional to the end. The leaf blower cut off, leaving a silence that felt like judgment. A single oak leaf had landed under Damon's wiper blade, and was tapping lightly against the windshield in the breeze, tick-tick-tick like a metronome, keeping time on his unraveling. Ava whispered, "What is that?" "Unpaid invoices," the man walking past muttered under his breath. "Happens when you forget who built your leverage." Damon shoved the envelope under his arm, pulled the key fob from his pocket, and thumbed it twice. The Porsche chirped, headlights blinking. He yanked the door handle too hard. The alarm gave a brief squeal, embarrassed, as if correcting him. When he finally slid into the seat, his hand trembled enough that the engine didn't catch the first try. Ava stood outside the car, frozen. She wasn't performing this time. Her eyes flicked up and met mine across the parking lot. It had been weeks since she'd done that. There was water there, not the proud kind, not the strategic kind, just shock, and maybe the first outline of regret. A golf cart buzzed behind me, carrying a woman old enough to be someone's grandmother, balancing a plate of pastries. I stepped forward and held the club door open for her. "Watch your step, ma'am," I said. She smiled. "Thank you, Captain. Saw your talk last month, fine words." "Paperwork always wins," I replied softly. She laughed without knowing why. Behind us, Damon's engine finally turned over. The rev was too loud, like he needed everyone to hear it. He backed out fast, nearly clipping the curb, tires squealing just enough to make every head turn again. The leaf under the wiper stayed with him, still tapping against the glass as he sped down the lane. Ava didn't follow. She stood beside the empty space where the car had been, still holding her phone but not looking at it. She took one step toward me, then another. Ruth's voice came back, clear and whole. "Forgiveness without boundaries is an invitation to repeat the harm." I wasn't inviting. The leaf blower started again somewhere down the hill, a dull roar swallowing what was left of the silence. As the leaf tapped and tapped, Ava finally walked toward me instead of away. Ava showed up just after sunset, the kind of hour where the house is half shadow, half memory. She didn't text first. I saw her silhouette through the frosted glass, arms crossed, shoulders tucked forward like she'd borrowed the posture from someone smaller. When I opened the door, she didn't speak, just stood there with a manila folder clutched like it might bite her. "Come in," I said. She hesitated at the threshold, eyes flicking toward the living room photo of Ruth at Lake Tahoe, wind whipping her hair sideways, sunlight on the water behind her. Ava looked away, almost in apology. The den smelled faintly of lemon polish and paper. My citizen clock ticked on the shelf, steady as a metronome for difficult conversations. She didn't sit until I nodded. "I picked him," she said finally, "because he made the world feel efficient. No smoke, just results." "Oh, smoke's how you know there's a fire," I said. Her throat tightened. "We're drowning. The premiums are higher than I thought. His business card looks like confidence, but the invoices—" She trailed off, looked at the floor. "I said cruel things." "You did. I don't know how to fix it." "You start by not calling it a misunderstanding," I said. "You start with truth on paper." She nodded, eyes wet. "If I return the bracelet, it could fund books for 2 scholarship students for a year," I said. A pause, long enough for the clock to mark 5 full seconds. Then she unclasped the Cartier from her wrist. The faint metallic click echoed more than it should have. She placed it in my palm, cool and heavy. "Okay." The word didn't sound defeated, it sounded earned. I set the bracelet on the coffee table. There was a hairline scratch there, one Ruth had left, dropping her keys years ago. I used to think about sanding it out, Now I think it's proof we lived. Ava looked around the room, at the framed commendations, the photo of Ruth, the thick binder labeled Estate Active. I thought power meant no one could tell you no, she said. Real power, I told her, is hearing no and staying upright. She nodded again, smaller this time. Here are the conditions, I said. Therapy 1 year minimum. Written amends to be read privately, not performed. 1 item of excess returned to the scholarship fund. You already started that. Respect the rent back until move out. And no more public minimization of service. Her jaw set. All of them? All of them. She looked toward the window where dusk was folding into the streetlights. I can't promise to like them. You don't have to. Just do them. Her phone buzzed on the table, twice. Damon's name. She silenced it without looking. The sound of that small defiance filled the space louder than any apology could have. I'll write the amends, she said. I'll do the therapy. But the posts, they stop, I said. She took a shaky breath. They stop. We sat there a long time, neither moving. The bracelet caught the light, a bright circle against the wood. I realized I was standing in the kitchen doorway, the same spot Ruth used to lean against when I was stubborn about something. For a heartbeat, the room felt like hers again. Still, but not empty. When Ava finally stood, she wiped her eyes with the back of her wrist, leaving a faint streak of mascara on her skin. She gathered her folder, folded the checklist I'd written for her, and whispered, "Thank you for still opening the door." "You'll earn that thank you," I said, "not spend it." She nodded, stepped into the hallway, and left without looking back. When the door closed, the house went quiet in a different way, less holding its breath, more letting it go. When Ava left with a checklist and swollen eyes, the house felt as if it exhaled for the first time in months. The light through the entryway window had that clean, hard edge of late morning, no drama left in it, just clarity. Boxes lined the hall, stacked too high, labeled in Ava's careful handwriting, kitchen misk, linens, office keep. One at the back read, Winter Ruth's Throw. I set that one aside myself, both hands steady. The neutral inspector, clipboard in hand, ticked off scuffs and nail holes. "Normal wear," he said, voice gentle like he'd seen families dissolve before lunch more times than he could count. Damon followed him from room to room, pretending not to care, but hovering anyway. "So that's it? You're just signing off?" "Standard procedure," the inspector replied. "I'll send copies to both parties." Outside, a delivery van idled. Someone's future furniture. Damon turned to Ava. "We're having 10 people. Okay, 20, just for an hour. A farewell thing." Ava didn't look up from the paperwork she was signing. "No, we're not. It's our house in spirit," he said. "In spirit, maybe," I said, meeting his eyes. "Indeed, no." He smirked, waiting for her to flinch. She didn't. The Nest camera's reflection glimmered in the glass panel by the door. A small electronic sun watching the exchange. Damon noticed it and straightened, realizing that for once the audience wasn't on his side. He mumbled something about calling a friend, then stepped outside to check his phone, volume up as if louder notifications meant control. Ava took a deep breath, turned to me. "Dad, can you read this before I send it?" She handed over a single sheet of paper. Blue ink, 1 page, no crossouts. The letterhead read, "To the Ruth Hayes Scholarship Board." I read aloud, softly. "I minimize the very people who would pull my kid from a car if the worst happened. I'm sorry. I will be better. I will teach my child that gratitude isn't an accessory." Her voice caught on that last word. "I wasn't sure about the commas." "2," I said. "1 after sorry, 1 after better." She nodded, took the pen, fixed them neatly. There was another envelope tucked beneath it, smaller, hand addressed to me. She didn't offer it, just held it for a moment, then slid it into the top of her purse. "Later," she said, "whenever you're ready." From outside, Damon's voice rose. "Ava! They said they're already on their way." She stepped to the doorway, shoulders squared. "Call them back." "What?" "You heard me. It's over." He froze, phone halfway to his ear, caught between disbelief and realization that the script had changed without him. The inspector cleared his throat. "We're done here. Both sign here for the walk-through acknowledgement." Ava signed first. Damon scribbled his name, eyes darting between us. When the inspector left, silence filled the house like air rushing back into a space that had been under pressure. Ava handed me the keys. Do you want me to lock it? Go ahead, I said. She turned the bolt once, firm. We took photos of the meter readings together, a small methodical ritual of endings. Outside, Damon leaned against his car, the keys still in his pocket but his engine silent. For the first time, he didn't look like a man performing victory. He looked like someone whose stage had been repossessed. Ava walked past him without slowing. "Goodbye, Damon," she said. He didn't answer. When she reached me at the curb, she let out a long breath. "I didn't think I could do that." "You just did." She smiled faintly, eyes red but clear. "Mom would have liked the letter, huh?" "She would have liked the fact you wrote it," I said. The Nest camera caught the two of us standing there, sunlight on the glass, boxes stacked neatly behind the closed door. When the door clicked behind them, the Nest reflected only me and a room finally ready for its next job. I guess 99% of you will hear this, sigh and scroll past, not clicking like or subscribe. Even if it only takes a second, what time is it for you? And where are you listening? The VFW hall smelled like coffee and starch and the ghosts of 1,000 slow dances. Wood paneling, a banner yellowed at the edges, crockpots lined up on a folding table under a sign that read Firefighters Families Scholarship Night. The air conditioner rattled in the vent like it had something left to prove. Ruth's photo sat on the table beside a single boot filled with carnations. She used to say that paperwork was love with a signature. Tonight, the paperwork was printed, stamped, and ready. Ava stood at the mic first. She'd dressed simply, no jewelry, no designer polish, just the small scar on her wrist catching the light when she adjusted the note card. Her voice trembled on the first line, then found its footing. "I called service a story," she said. "The truth is, it's the receipt I didn't have. I'm sorry." She didn't add a but, didn't dilute it with context. Just let the words hang there, plain and unarmored. Silence filled the hall tight, uncertain until one veteran in the back clapped once, then twice. Then the room joined in, applause growing like a slow roll of thunder. Ava stepped away from the mic, eyes glassy, shoulders lighter. She sat beside me without speaking. When the chair nodded in my direction, I stood. "Ruth Hayes believed in quiet paperwork," I began. "She said the world runs on signatures made by tired people who care anyway. We built a scholarship in her name because she wanted stories that held when heat came." A slide flickered on the projector. Photos of the scholarship recipients, 5 kids, 2 bound for paramedic school, 1 joining the Navy, 1 studying fire science at Camden County, 1 aiming to teach chemistry. Their smiles looked like beginnings. I went on. "We're giving the house its next job. Starting next month, it'll serve as short-term housing for firefighter families displaced by line-of-duty injuries. Rent, $1. Utilities covered by the fund. Managed through the firefighters' credit union." Gasps, then soft murmurs. Heads nodded. A few wiped their eyes. A man in the back, a Vietnam vet I'd known since before cell phones, grinned and called out, "That's the kind of leverage we like." Laughter rippled, the kind that lets people breathe again. I saw the credit union rep raise a folder. Everything signed, notarized, ready. It was Ruth's kind of night. No fireworks, just work done right. The MC read the names of this year's recipients. One boy's mother, still in her paramedic uniform, cried quietly into her hands. The applause that followed wasn't polite, it was relief, made sound. Afterward, people formed a coffee line. Styrofoam cups, metal stirrers, that familiar burnt scent of percolation. A crockpot lid clucked softly in rhythm with the low talk. Someone told me about the night Ruth organized blankets after a warehouse fire. Another said his daughter's scholarship letter had arrived the same day his insurance lapsed. Ava listened, nodding, tears on her cheeks she didn't bother to hide. When the line thinned, she reached for my hand. "You were right," she said quietly. "Boundaries aren't walls, they're structure." "That's how houses stand," I said. The applause started again when one of the scholarship kids took a photo beside Ruth's portrait. Ava stepped back, letting the moment belong to them. I noticed her left wrist was bare where the bracelet used to be. It glinted instead on the raffle table, melted down into the scholarship's first endowment check. As the crowd began to drift home, I shook hands, accepted thanks I didn't need. A veteran clapped my shoulder. "Hell of a comeback, Captain," he said. Not a comeback, I told him. A handoff. He nodded, eyes bright. That's the best kind. When the lights dimmed and the last crockpot lid settled, I stood by Ruth's photo one more time. I set the clock 2 seconds fast, I whispered. Still helps me feel ahead. Then I walked home through the quiet streets. The cool night carrying the faint hum of air conditioners and crickets. When I reached the house, I turned the new key in the lock, the one filed under community use. The door opened easily. After the photos and the last handshake, I walked home, turned the key in the door that now belonged to everyone Ruth loved, and let the house breathe.